Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Game Week 10. My name is Fergi. My wildcard is active, and I'm joined today by my co-host, the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 9?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. I'm good. My arrow was firmly red in Game Week 9. Scarlet, crimson, whatever shade of red you want to choose. After a, what did you describe it as, generational Game Week 8?
You've now had another generational Game Week 9.
Generational, probably my best Game Week rank ever was probably followed by my worst Game Week rank ever in Game Week 9. So it's something like over 11 millionth last week. Didn't it was all going.
Not even that many players, mate.
It was a bad week. Well, it was a bad week for most people. And it was all kind of under control a little bit. I slipped down to about 250k going into the last game. Nothing had really happened across the team. No real points out there. But as you can see, if you're watching on video, my defender selection was spectacularly wrong for some reason. Based on my Burnley bench boost in Game Week 8, I decided to play Esteve ahead of Van de Ven in Game Week 9. There is no real excuse for this, mate. I think I have to put my hand up and say
you had a boner over Esteve, mate. That's what it was. You saw his 8 points last week. You thought he's the main man. He's the new Gabriel.
This is my fault. Mea culpa. It's basically, you're looking back at it. Why would you?
You were like, I've got an edge over the rest of the FPL community because I've got
an away game. I played Esteve in an away game. Yes, what an expert. Fantastic. So look, if you look back at my only excuse, back at Van de Ven's last 4 scores before he came into this game week. It was something like 0, 1, 2, and 0. He'd done nothing, and I was ready to sell him this week. And he just goes and puts up the best score of the whole week. And I think he's still one of the highest owned defenders in the game. I think he's over 30% owned or something. And basically, it absolutely destroyed my rank not having him in my side. And I think it feels worse if you own a player, doesn't it? And you don't start him and he hauls. I think that's the worst. The worst feeling I think you can get. I was sitting there when the first game went in. I was watching the game. I had a bit of a wobble. Went, oh no! And then when the second one went in, I was like,
the second one is goodness me moment.
Absolute stinker. And then he added a couple of DEFCONs at the end, just to really smack me in the face. So yeah, well done if you had Van de Ven. Well done if you played him. Didn't happen for me. I think the difference would have been I'd have been top 100k if I'd played him. And instead, I'm down at 500. So
I'm just thinking. I don't know. Is that the second highest defender haul? I know Trent had a 24 point against Leicester on Boxing Day.
John Stones got a 25 or a 27 once, didn't he? He scored a couple in a City game and got bonus. Was pre-DEFCONs, but I think he might have got an assist as well. So he just got a bit higher than that. But yeah, a couple of seasons ago, I had that one. But not this one. Anyway, look, c'est la vie. I needed a couple of days away from it, but I'm back. I'm back and looking forward.
It's a good job we pod on a Thursday. A lot of people ask us why we pod on a Thursday, and I think it's for us to come down from the mental anguish we feel. If we were to pod on a Monday or a Tuesday, the pod would be very different, I think, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But elsewhere, I mean, look, nothing else happened, did it? If we come off Van de Ven for a sec, it was, the Chelsea. We're all loaded up on Chelsea. 3 Chelsea assets. They lose at home to Sunderland. Everyone captains Haaland. They lose away to Villa. A bit of a nothing week. Even my I knew I was probably going to have a bad one because I've got my Palace assets early, but they played Arsenal and didn't score. So yeah, nothing else to report, sir.
Okay, mate. Onto mine. Compared to I had an absolute stormer. 39 points, 7 points, 25% more points than you, Rich. But I brought in Kubi Jr., which was obviously, a decent move. I was happy with that. And I was all set to bring in Gabriel. That was like, I have to bring in Gabriel. No messing around. And obviously, we saw the rumors on the Friday, I think, that he hadn't been in training and it was, he was this, that, and the other. And I thought, well, no, it's okay. I'm bringing Gabriel in anyway. because if he doesn't play, I've got 2 defenders on my bench, so it's all good. I looked at my defenders on my bench, and I had Ekdal, right, who I brought in game week 5 because he was playing every week and smashing DEFCONs more than Estev was. But he hadn't played for ages. And I had the Cooper, who was kind of in and out of the team. And I was thinking, well, hang on a minute. If I go for Gabriel here, I'm using a transfer to go for Gabriel. If he doesn't play, I may not get any points at all. And it's funny, I talk a lot about butterfly effect in FPL, how transfers you make can impact you 4 weeks down the line without even knowing it, right? And in game week 5, I went for Ekdal over Estev, right? Now, last week, when Romero was injured, I had De Kuiper off the bench because Ekdal didn't play for 1 point. If I'd have picked Estev in game week 5, I would have had an 8-pointer off the bench, right? So that's 7 points or 8 points. Definitely, I would have improved last week. And this week, if I'd have had Estev, I would have picked Gabriel because I would have had Estev as a backup, and Gabriel would have got 9 points. Because I didn't have Estev, I thought, well, I have to have a playing third defender. So I went for Rich James, who got a 1-pointer. So that butterfly effect of picking Ekdal over Estev is unbelievable, really. But thankfully, I had some Porro points. He absolutely saved my week, as he did a couple of weeks ago again. So a poor score, 39 points. But I am active. I'm more active than I've ever been.
Was that an instant decision last weekend to wildcard?
Well, I actually made the decision as soon as I didn't go for Gabriel, because I could have gone for Gabriel and Mateta, and they would have been 2 very forward-facing moves. But I wanted to make sure I wildcard this week, and I keep looking at my team every week. It doesn't feel I'm like, oh yeah, but Foden could do this or Kudus could do this, whereas I know I need triple Palace and triple Arsenal. Stop messing around, just do it.
Get it done.
So I thought if I don't go for those players, because they were playing each other, and it was a difficult fixture for both teams as it played out, right? Now I force myself into a wild card. I'm active. I went active on Sunday, I think, because I think I was out on Saturday. But yeah, we will look at my team later, but I'm incredibly excited because for the first time, I have a very forward-facing team with lots of form players. I've got a great balance and lots of excitement in the coming weeks. So super excited for that. We have a fair few Violin moments. We'll touch on in a sec. Just want to say hello to the chat first. Helgerid is in from Norway. He's already moved on. João Pedro and Reinders to Sar and Gui. Very well done. Zara is in the chat. Best game week so far. Van der Ven, Rodon, and Cash all on the bench boost. Ended up on 83 points, Rich. That's like
that's a huge score last week. Yeah,
2.6 million up to 950k. She said she thinks she should retire. Well played, Zara. Ian McLaughlin is here. He said, "Is today's edition of violin concerts for all the benched and transferred points? It's a positive orchestra, Ian. Don't worry about that." Ollie Poole is in, who had a bit of a stinker himself. I'll read out Ollie's violin moment in a bit. Lulu is in. Says Rice or Sar? It's got to be Sar, haven't it? I think. Sokan is in. Matt Woolley is on wildcard. Also benched Van der Ven last week. I must have a username. He says Reinders to Iwobi is the new goal. That is an interesting one. The 81st records, Darren is in. I'm 1974. Sean O'Berry, all the way from Washington. Clear FPL. Gareth Bennett is clawing his way back from 6 million in the world to 2.7 in 2 weeks. That's he is a fanboy of yours, Rich. He's my golf coach, Gareth, and he loves the way you play. He said to me out on the course one day, we were discussing FPL. I can't think what it was. It was like a tumbleweed moment, and he kind of just said to me, "Yeah, I like the way Rich plays." Obviously intimate he didn't like the way I play, but he's a big fan.
Well, yes, he hasn't seen me play golf, that's for sure.
No, not yet. We'll have to organise that. And welcome everyone else. Absolutely superb stuff. But yeah, we do have some violin moments. We have some absolute crackers for this week. First, obviously, Rich yourself, 23 points on the bench, as you say. Now, how often does one bench a 23-pointer? We've had some others as well. Robin Lennon in the last 4 game weeks has benched Van der Ven for 23, Gvardiol for 13, and Gabriel for 12. And played Defcon Tarkovsky for 2 1-pointers. What am I thinking? His only solution is to 5-3-2. Well, that is interesting because we were going to talk about wildcard and formation and structure in a bit. S. Conson sold Mateta for Voltemada last week instead of João Pedro, then benched Van der Ven this week thinking Everton would score. Captain Gakpo ended up with 40 points. Dylan benched Van der Ven also. FPL Mind wildcarded out Pedro Porro and Rodon.
Oh my God.
For a combined 24 points. And the new wildcard team fell short of points than the old team would have. That's the worst. FPL Jus sold Cunha to get Flame of the Month Enzo and started Tarkowski over Porro. Ben Van der Ven on the bench. James had 48 points on the bench.
Oh my God.
Which looks like, I don't know if this is right, Martinez 8, Mateta 2, Van der Ven 23, Matty Cash 15. And Scuderia asks, Fergie, can I get a violin? He had Esteve first on the bench. And Harry Wilson didn't play. So Esteve came in for the 1-pointer. Guess who was second on his bench? He did the same as you, mate. He went for he went for the Burnley defender, for the Spurs defender.
Idiot.
Some absolute stinkers there. Absolute stinkers. And Ollie Poole, the editor in the hub as well. Let me just see if I can get this up. Ollie decided against a Game Week 8 bench boost because he had Tarkowski and missed out on 15 points. Ollie bench boosted this week instead with Davrabka against a poor Wolves, Stack and Goodmanson against a terrible West Ham, and Defcon monster Mukiele. Surely a banker for a few points. Ended up on 5 points. Goodmanson got injured even though Leeds had a storm, didn't they? Stack stayed on the bench. Davrabka conceded 2, and Mukiele missed Defcons. Would have least have brought Croupier in if I'd have seen the Stack news. So Ollie's had an absolute stinker there as well. But yeah, all funny stuff. And this is where, if you can laugh yourself at FPL, life is good. What's a saying now? FPL should improve your life and not take away from it.
Yeah,
let's just all laugh at each other together.
You honestly can't take it too seriously. It's great when it goes well. Obviously, you've got to, as we said on the previous week, you've got to celebrate the really good weeks because you are more likely to have a stinker than you are a good one. And it's true. It's turning into this season is like a I don't know, a grown-up game of snakes and ladders, isn't it? That's what it's like. You get all the way up to position 89, in a game week, and then all of a sudden you hit a snake and come back down to position 2 again and have to start all over again. And that's basically what it feels
like. It's how you deal with it, right? It's just, take it for what it is. It's all a bit of fun and a great community, all sharing the highs and lows with each other.
Absolutely, mate.
Fantastic. Absolutely. With that in mind, have you had a bad start in FPL? If you have, help is at hand. And come and join over 400,000 managers taking advantage of weekly transfer recommendation powered by AI, specifically for your FPL team by clicking the top link below and joining Fantasy Football Hub. If you haven't joined the Hub, really, what are you doing? Get on the Hub. You will not regret it. So let's look forward, Rich. Enough of this, enough of these reviews. I prefer a preview to a review. And let's look ahead to Game Week 10 and onwards. And Crystal Palace sat right on top of that ticker there. They have got a fantastic run of fixtures, not only for these 5, but their fixtures do go on and on all the way through to something like Game Week 19 and 20. They've got 3 home games in the next 4, and the 2 away games in that period are away to Wolves and away to Burnley. Goodness me, Rich, Palace all the way. You've already got the preferred triple up without Wildcard. Fulham have got some good fixtures, as have Brighton. Liverpool's got a tough next 2 maybe, but they do improve after that. And right down the bottom, Leeds are down the bottom. Newcastle are away to West Ham. Then it gets a bit tougher. Wolves and Spurs as well. What are your thoughts, mate, on how we approach this next period?
Well, I think it you'll see from some of the transfers and some of the transfer activity this week, it's becoming a little bit obvious what people should do from from now on, if you're not bringing them all in straight away on a wild card like you might be, you've got to really look at those Crystal Palace fixtures. I think the news that we had last night, and we will talk about this in some detail in a minute, with Crystal Palace going away to Liverpool, and albeit beating a dramatically rotated Liverpool team, they are through to round 5 of the EFL Cup, which means there could be blank game weeks and double game weeks to come, and if anything, it enhances their appeal, particularly if you have a free hit left, and really they're still showing great form. They haven't been winning a huge amount of games recently, apart from the EFL Cup game. They lost to Arsenal, they lost the previous week, but they're putting up great expected numbers. In each game. Mateta is the standout striker behind Haaland in terms of expected numbers, and those fixtures are about as good as it gets for a team. And also, you can always rely on the top picks to start. The team is hardly ever rotated. The biggest fear is, will they suffer from burnout in the next few weeks, and with the fixture schedule that they've got. So really like Palace, get on Palace, and Liverpool kind of in 4th place there on the ticker. They are improving, but from game week 12 they will probably be up at number 1 or 2 in the ticker. But they're all over the place, aren't they? Liverpool can't win a game.
Absolutely.
And we had Charlie on, big Liverpool fan, last week, and they just won 5-1 in the Champions League, but they lost again at the weekend in the Premier League, lost again in the EFL Cup. That's something like, is that 6 out of 7 they've lost now? I mean, they're not a buy at the moment, are they, Liverpool? So you've got to look down this list. I still think it's about Arsenal and Chelsea for the next 2 weeks. I know Chelsea had a bad result last week, but Arsenal's fixtures, the next 2 fixtures, are irresistible, really. And that's where I personally got some worries over my lack of Arsenal cover. So I think Arsenal is still a buy. Chelsea perhaps not so, because of their wobbly form. However, the fixtures still look good. West Ham, you'd hard avoid West Ham, and maybe Brighton and Fulham are your source of an enabler or a budget midfielder, perhaps for their good fixtures if you're shuffling the money around to buy a premium asset. I haven't heard any news on Anderson yet this week. I was out of the game yesterday, but don't think we've got any news yet. But Joachim Anderson still looks a great hold, at least if he's coming back soon, as Fulham's fixtures are really, really good. Wolves at home, Everton away, Sunderland at home. Lovely 3 fixtures there if you can get your DEFCON guy back. But if not, I'm not sure who else you'd go for from Fulham. Jimenez maybe, or is he injured?
I think he was playing because Muniz was out for a while. I don't think there's many I don't think there's many options. There was a shout for Iwobi potentially in the chat, who plays. But interesting on Palace, as you say, and obviously we had the news last night because they beat Liverpool that this. That at the moment, as the fixtures stand, they're very likely to have 4 fixtures in 8 days around the Christmas period. So they're going to be away to Man City. I think it's on, I want to say Sunday the 14th or Saturday the 14th. Sunday the 14th. They will then have a game against Arsenal in the EFL Cup, likely on the Tuesday, which will be the quarter-final. They then have a European game on the Thursday, and then they go to Elland Road a few days later for four games in 8 days, and we're not sure what's going to happen there yet. But I do think whatever happens, it's going to be a very interesting period, because there's probably 3 or 4 different scenarios. One, it stays, it kind of stays as is, and if it does stay as is, I mean, goodness me, how are we going to be able to predict teams against Man City and Leeds, particularly if Palace need to win in Europe to get through? Because obviously they lost last week very unexpectedly, but they also have Arsenal in a cup quarter final. They're going to want to put a really strong side out as well. Yeah. That's the first sort of scenario. Or there could be something where a league game is moved and it causes a blank or a double elsewhere or wherever else. But I think one thing's for sure, it needs to be closely monitored. I think if you do have a free hit, I would hold it now. I've told it now because those stars have sort of aligned. That's, I think, somewhere in that period, potentially 16. Even though we get, we do get 5 AFCON transfers. Then could be 16, could be 17. But I would be holding the free hit. Is that your?
I think so. I mean, I think Ben Crellin, who friend of the hub, he's kind of rode back on a double on a little bit on the probability of a double. It still might be possible, but because I think Arsenal play Everton, is it, and Palace play Leeds, those are the 4 teams whose fixtures could be affected, and they may blank in game week 17 if they're if one of the league games is postponed to make way for that EFL Cup fixture at the weekend, perhaps. And I think that blank is, to me, feels more likely than maybe the pre-Christmas double. I think there's no hassle on rearranging that fixture to somewhere later in the season. But bringing it forward, particularly for Palace, would be when they'll be on their knees anyway with the schedule. I think is unlikely. They would not want that. I
suppose it's an argument that obviously after Christmas, especially if Palace win, they would have the Carabao Cup semi-finals, they would have the FA Cup, and they would still be in Europe. And normally when a team is still in Europe, as was I think it was last year or the year before, they like to get the game sort of played. So,
but there's no gaps, Fergie. The problem is there's no gaps.
No,
they can't bring it forward. There's no midweek free for them to bring it forward. Whereas before we did see the trend of them bringing the fixtures forward rather than backward. But I think there's no spot for it, so I think it might just be a postponement. But we should hear, I think, before game week 11. I think that's what people are saying. We should know more about the TV schedule around the EFL Cup games before game week 11. So if you've got a free hit, hold it. If you've got chips to play, I think there will be opportunities pre-Christmas to do that.
Interesting. And it's just another couple of teams I just want to touch on. Obviously Arsenal have been in great form. The 2 fixtures they've got next, away to Burnley and away to Sunderland. I think they're obviously very good from a defensive view. I've currently got Saka in my wildcard team. After that, then Arsenal do go on a run of Spurs at home, Chelsea away, and Brentford at home, which you probably still expect them to win. At least 2 of the 3, if not all 3. But they're harder games on paper, maybe. But Burnley and Sunderland haven't been that bad recently. Especially Sunderland. What are your kind of thoughts there? I love this thing of the, you spot a run of fixtures, and maybe even a month ago we were looking at Burnley away, Sunderland away, and thinking, oh my God, absolute bankers. Arsenal going to win like 3-4, 5-0. Both teams have defended all right. Both teams are doing pretty well in the league, especially at home. What's your thoughts?
I think Sunderland, their colour on the fixture ticker has to be changed. I think they're showing kind of top 6 kind of form, and I think we've had some Sunderland fans who are members of this podcast who regularly on there saying you can't keep on thinking Sunderland's a gimme fixture. It's not. They went away to Chelsea and they won. And they deserve to win last week, really. So I would rate that away game to Sunderland's a much harder fixture than the ticker is suggesting. But Burnley, I think, are an easier fixture for Arsenal. It's a bit more of a mismatch. They managed to get a result against Leeds. They've won 2 on the spin. They managed to win against Wolves despite being 2-0 up. They did get the winner, so they've won 2 on the spin. They are improving, but I think Arsenal will be too much for them, and I can see a clean sheet at Burnley and and a comfortable win for Arsenal in that one. But Sunderland, I think, can get a result.
If I was to ask you now, triple Arsenal defence or double and Saka, completely objectively, not bearing in mind your own team, what would you prefer?
At this point, I would probably go double and Saka, because I think Saka is due for a big haul. He hasn't had it yet, but I think he scored in the EFL, didn't he, when he came on as a sub last night?
Came on and scored.
Scored within a couple of minutes. And, you can see it happening. He's playing well. I've never been a fan of double ups in defence, really. So going a triple up, it's really feast or famine. You concede a goal and it's game week over, isn't it? You've got to be really, really confident. But I can see it working for you can't argue with 3 goals conceded in 9 games, can you?
No.
Which is what we're looking at the moment. It's a third of a goal a game. It's one of the lowest ratios we've ever seen. So I wouldn't do it. It's just a bit too unbalanced, and I would have an Arsenal attacker in there, even though they're spreading the goals around.
I think if there wasn't the sort of injury doubt, I think I think he's fine. I don't like the Raya pick, and I was following a couple of accounts on X, and one of them made the point quite rightly now. Like Raya now is 5.7 million, and he's not even getting the opportunity to make any saves. There was I think it might have been actually on. Oh, I want to get the quote right, but apparently David Raya in his last match put in a work from home request, which I thought was quite nice, just because if that's right, Sky, I think that's right, Sky. It was on your pod, wasn't it? But he's just not getting any action. He's not getting any saves. No. So I do think Raya's ceiling at the moment is probably 6 points. Whereas obviously, a Caliafury or something, you have got that sort of attacking upside as well. So I definitely don't like the Raya pick, but I think if Caliafury, Timber, and Gabriel, I mean, that is an exciting triple up, right? But then obviously that's a lot of money at the back. You probably also want Munoz, who is playing like a forward, right?
Exactly. There are other really good options, aren't there? And look at, I'm not sure if we've got a full feature on it, but look at the number of sub 5 million defenders that are putting in 17-point hauls every week. Or 17-point plus, you're getting 4 million defender. If he scores a goal and his team keeps a clean sheet, he's almost guaranteed 3 bonus, and then he's probably going to add defcons because he's playing for a promoted team or something. So 17 points is very doable for these guys, and that's for your cheaper defender, and that's why you might cause you a few bench nightmares. But it is if they spike and you've got them in your team, you're laughing.
I took a bit of stick last week for saying that I'm not sure that Salah will be an option for the rest of the season. I didn't really see too much. He's definitely sort of not on the menu, is he, either for this week or next week? Obviously, they play Forest in Gameweek 12, who've now got Dyche instead of Anne. So obviously, I think that automatically turns into a slightly more difficult fixture. They have West Ham away in 13 and Sunderland again in 14. Everyone's saying, "Oh, look." Again, big green Sunderland. That's not an easy fixture. So I still don't think that Salah will be on the menu soon, no matter what he does in in this next two. I think Gakpo maybe, as we mentioned, if there's an injury, either especially an injury to Isak, I think a double up as I did the start of the season, Ekitike and Gakpo could be really nice, but just can't see us spending 14 point whatever million on Salah now, especially when he's just not captainable at the moment, is he? So, but no, that's just the point I want to make there. Transfer targets this week. We have a sea of red and blue shirts, Rich.
Not really that surprising, is it?
Look at this. And four, well, all 5 of these have been in my wildcard team this week. 4 are now, but you want to talk us through?
Sure. I mean, I obviously got these 3 guys already, and they are still, I think, the standout 3. I think we've got a slight injury doubt still over Chris Richards, who's been very popular for DEFCONs early in the season. And if you have, a Palace defender like Lacroix, Gay, or Richards in your team, I don't think there's any busting rush to have to sell them or sideways move that to Munoz. But I think if you were wildcarding, you'd probably look at Munoz alongside some Arsenal defenders in your setup. Munoz has been, he's been awesome. I just worry a little bit about him because he plays a huge amount of minutes as well, and I'm just worried that he's going to get an injury or get flogged.
He's an animal, mate. He's an absolute animal. He
plays
every minute of every game.
Yeah, he's incredibly fit, and so attacking. And very exciting to watch. So you really love Daniel Munoz. I mean, Ismail Assar hasn't returned a huge amount of points yet. Shown great expected potential. Has scored 1 or 2 goals this season already. Missed a couple of games through injury, but scored twice last night against Liverpool. And so that's done him no harm in the transfer stakes either. So I would definitely have Sarr in as the 6.5 level midfielder of choice. He's got some competition at that price with the likes of Ndiaye and Enzo, although Enzo had a quiet week last week. I think Sarr's a great pick and really, a nice, really nice price. You want to get on him before he starts going up. He looks fantastic. And then Mateta, I think, is sort of the easiest move for most people this week if you have certain João Pedro in your team. I can't believe how I don't know what to do with him. I don't know who to sell him for because I've already got Mateta. Huge fire sale on Pedro. So Pedro to Mateta, most people have already done it. I think they did it Sunday night because there was a price change, and we'll say no more. Mateta just speaks for himself. He's the obvious striker to go for this week and for the coming weeks. And then let's talk a little bit about Mbeumo, because he's very interesting. I think I'm not sure what you're going for on your wildcard, whether you're having any Man United, but if I was choosing over Bruno at the moment, I would go Mbeumo. I'd save the million and have him on form. And despite Bruno's routes to points, Bruno will still be on penalties, but he just seems to be promising a lot but not delivering any points. Bruno, doesn't he, at the moment? I'm not delivering.
It's almost like
points.
He's playing as a number 6.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But Boomer's really, showing his form. He doesn't have pens, he does have some set pieces, and it's just a form pick. United have now won 3 on the spin, and they're looking good. So really like Mbeumo. And then if, like me, you've got to sell João Pedro for someone other than Mateta, I really like Thiago of Brentford. He's been mentioned a lot in early season. He's always been on penalties. He missed almost the whole of last season through injury. And I think he scored 7 goals already this season, and they weren't all penalties, but he is on pens for Brentford. And I think he's 6.2 million. He's had a price rise this week. But Brentford's fixtures, if we can go back to the ticker just for a second, they improve a lot, I think, from game week 12 onwards or game week 13 onwards, because when you start looking at game week 13 wildcard drafts, so we had Gian on a few weeks ago, his team was full of Brentford assets in that, in that long range forecast. So I think Brentford are a good bet. They're playing much better than expected. Obviously beat Liverpool last week, looking good. Thiago, and he'll generate a nice lot of money that you can upgrade yourself to a Saka or an Arsenal defender this week. So really like Thiago, and he may be coming in for me as part of my transfer planning. So what do you think of those two, Mbeumo and Thiago?
Well, I've always loved Mbeumo, and I think that he's such a fabulous finisher. He's so clinical. He's probably the one player, one forward player for United so far this season who has looked the real deal. I think that Cunha has in patches. Sesko is slowly improving. Bruno is obviously a wonderful player, but he's obviously playing so further back. But Mbeumo is there. He's just there or thereabouts. And I see him in almost like the Sarr mold a bit. They just look so dangerous all the time, and they're such good finishers. And they're both nailed in my wild card. I think for the price on Mbeumo, I think if he was like 9 million, if he and Bruno were similar price, I think there is an argument, because obviously there's the kind of defcons and penalties with Bruno, but Mbeumo is nailed in my wild card because his price. He absolutely fits into that slot perfectly for me. So it's not even a question.
What is he, 8.2 now?
8.2. I think he's at a right. Yeah, I think I bought him on the weekend. 8 or 8.1. I think he's gone up at least 0.1 this week. Thiago, I can't get that excited. It's hard to argue with his record. Maybe I'm looking a bit too much in the short term. Obviously, away to Palace this week. Don't really like the fixtures going up to game week 12. Maybe up to game week 13, maybe a rethink, as you say, but I'm not wildcarding the game week 13. And I've got a lot of places I want to spend a lot of money at the moment. So he's just not, he's an all right pick for me, but he's only, for me anyway, he's only on people's minds just because there is no one else.
Yeah, he's like a bit of an island between going full Krupi Junior or at the 4.5 level, or sticking around with three heavy hitting strikers, isn't he? He's in a bit of a no man's land, it feels.
But because we've got so many incredible picks, especially at the back, right? If you want to have Gabriel, Timber, and Munoz, which is probably the preferred 3 at the moment, and especially have Saka as well, I don't think you can afford a third forward. I don't think you can afford him. And so I was chatting with my son this morning. He's looking at Thiago. He's also looking at someone else of that price range, which I'll touch on maybe in a bit. But he was saying, "Oh, yeah, but I haven't got Munoz," and I was just saying, "Well, for me, rightly or wrongly, it's just a straight shootout. Who do you want, Munoz or Thiago?" And it's just for me an absolute no-brainer. Move into a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2 just feels at the moment more sensible. It could shift, and these forwards could be, it could shift again in a few weeks, and we'll look at the forwards again. The clean sheets might dry up, etc., etc. I'm 1974 in the chat says, "Come on, Fergie, show us the spaffed wild card." Very, very, very impatient there. I'm 1974. We
getting ahead of
will
himself,
get there, I
isn't he?
promise. Let's have a look at predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. Haaland top 31, Salah second 26, Mateta 24, Saka 23, Bruno 23, Semenyo 22. Just on Semenyo as well, I've seen him drop from a few wildcards drafts. Have you actually seen his fixtures from game week 12? You are crazy. And don't be dropping Semenyo, especially if you bought him early doors, because he's got, what is he now? Is he 8.1 or something crazy like
Something
that?
like that, yeah.
I would not be dropping Semenyo, even ahead of these fixtures. He's just
Well, it depends if you're on him. If you've been on him since day one and you've got £1 million of value in him, that would be a very, very quick.
I just even think every game you watch him, he's just, he's so dangerous. Would you be surprised if he scored against City this weekend? Away?
No,
I absolutely wouldn't. Don't sell Semenyo. I wouldn't anyway. Gabriel 21 and Buemo 21. Soboslai, interestingly, at 21 as well. Enzo 20, Sarr 20, Gakpo 19, Munoz 19. Ahmad is up there again. Cheap United asset. We've mentioned him a few times before. 6.3, and then Dye, and then a few more there. So they are the predicted points for the coming weeks. So let's have a look firstly, before we look at my wildcard team, let's have a look at the Hub AI Game Week 10 best wildcard team. Mine is reasonably similar. I got to be honest, but this is what Hub AI has picked. Don't forget, you can get this real time, all the time, each and every game week at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Link in the description below. But it's gone from a double up at the back of Davrabka and Petrovic, and a back five, a strong back five. I love this back five. Gabriel, Timber, Munoz, Senesi, who, if I don't have him on wildcard, I think I'll be definitely getting back in game week 12 because the fixtures are great and he's fantastic for DEFCONs, only 5 million. And Mukiele is probably the pick of the 4.1s. That is an insane back five. Saka, Bruno, Sarr, and Enzo. With Anderson as a cheap fifth mid, Haaland, Mateta, and Mark Gui. Why haven't I gone for this wild card? That is ridiculous. What a team!
Probably because you've kept Semenyo.
Yeah, it probably is. But what a team! That is it's
a good team, isn't it? Well, yeah, it doesn't keep Semenyo probably because of the immediate fixtures. It's a great team, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably got a plan to get him back, maybe.
Yeah.
But, wow. What do you think of that, mate?
I think it's great. Yeah, no, as I said earlier, we said about would you go 3 Arsenal defenders? It doesn't like that. It likes Saka. You can see Saka hauling. Kept Bruno. Maybe it fancies him over Buemo because of the routes to points and the DEFCON potential and stuff like that. But yeah, Sarr and Enzo, 2 very good values, 6.5 ish players. It's gone for the absolute minimum on the third forward, so it's definitely committing to a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 setup. And then you've got, of course, Senesi. When the fixtures improve, you can easily go 4-4-2 with a rock solid back four. So yeah, I really like it. I'm not sure about the Petrovic pick. I'd need to look at the goalkeepers, but there's no standout really apart from Ray. I really hate Sanchez as the pick at the moment. He just seems to be a liability for Chelsea. So I don't really see, you either go premium with a Ray or a Donnarumma, or you go for a cheapie. So I understand the Petrovic pick.
Interesting stuff. Let's have a quick look at the Hub AI best free hit team. We have been asked for this a few times. So this is for a 1 week punt, and people may be playing free hit this week. It's going for Roef, who's now 4.7 million. I mean, his price is flying up with Mamadashvili on the bench. But Roef's home to Everton looks, a good pick this week. Gabriel, Timber, Mukiele, and Virgil as a back four, Saka, Bruno, Soboslai, interestingly, and Sarr, and then Haaland and Mateta. That is your best free hit team. Don't forget you can get this as well each and every week, real time live on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Fergie is a punt for game week 10, and this week it's actually courtesy of my son. So I've been very much, building a wild card team. Probably haven't got anyone sort of massively out of the blue in the wild card team. My son's on wild card as well, and he showed me his team, and I looked at it. I thought, what the hell have you got him in for? And I had a bit of a closer look, and I was like, actually, it's quite interesting. So this player, he's a forward. He's a mid-price forward. 5 goals in 9 appearances. 12 shots on target, 7 in the box, 9 shots in the box. Pretty decent XG, throwing up really good numbers. He's on penalties, and when he plays, he generally scores. And the fixtures are pretty good as well. So he's Leeds at home this week, Palace away next week, then home to Brentford, away to Forest, home to Villa. Like I say, he's a cheapish price, but my son and I actually thinks that Danny Welbeck could be a good third striker. Obviously, his knees are made of mashed potato, as we know, and he could sort of break down any time. But when he plays, as he's proven time and time again, he does score. And I actually really like that pick, Rich. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like him. Yeah, it's good. Brighton are very up and down, aren't they? They certainly provide entertaining games. There's normally high-scoring games. I wouldn't invest in their defence, but I think he's a decent punt, mate. I'm not sure he's going to make it into your final wildcard 11, but we're not talking about that here. We're talking about a punt.
He's probably not, but it's more just because, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the price point is who do I prefer? And this is what I said to my son word for word this morning, because he was on about Welbeck. We didn't have Munoz. I said, well, who do you prefer in your team, Munoz or Welbeck? And that's how we got to the point that I think he's going for Munoz now. But I do like it as a pick. If you've got the price point for it, I think I prefer him in the short term over Thiago anyway, personally. But there we go. Rich against the machine for game week 10. How did you get on last week, Rich?
I think the highlight of my performance last week was that actually my Rich against the machine pick Krupi Jr. did score. Therefore he beat I think he had a very low set of predicted points, about 2.6 by the hub, because he weren't sure about his start, and so he hammered that, and so actually managed to chalk up my second victory against the machine, much needed. This week I've gone for a player that you don't see in many wildcards. In fact, even in the pecking order for Manchester United, he's quite down the order over Bruno and Mbeumo. It's not him. So therefore, I've gone for Matheus Cunha this week, who's got an expected points of about 4.6. I mean, normally I'm trying to pick someone who's got the potential, if they score or they assist, or perhaps they get a few bonus points, they're going to exceed that. I don't mind if he wins by 0.1. As long as I can beat the machine, it counts as a win for me. But I did think he played well last week. He scored in United's win against Brighton. I think he's starting to really improve and really understand his role within the United side. So I really like Cunha. I think he's a good pick for a differential, because you don't see him in many teams. Like when everyone brought him in a few game weeks ago and doubled up on United, he unfortunately got injured and got a 1-pointer, and I think it put people off. But he's back, and I think he'll play a really strong role for United in coming weeks. So yeah, Cunha is my Rich against the machine pick. So an assist will get me a much needed win against the algorithm.
So interestingly now, mate, just on Man United, I'm sure United fans feel a lot of pain. Well, I've felt a lot of pain over the years with false dawns, but 3 on the trot, they haven't had that for a long, long time. Do you think they have finally turned a corner? I've seen some rubbish about how they're gonna, win the league now or whatever, or finish in the top 2. I'm just like, no, I can't see that.
They're on the edge of the top 4, aren't they, at the moment? If they keep winning, they could get into the top 4 and solidify a position in that. I think they're bored, and their management, they'll be happy if they get back into Europe this year. Let's not belittle any of the European competitions. If they can get back into Europe, that is a significant step forward from where they were. There'll be an expectation that they should always be in Europe because they're such a massive club. But that would be a hell of an improvement on 17th or 16th or whichever it was. I don't know who finished. Did Tottenham finish above them or below them? Let's not get this wrong.
Spurs finished 17th. I think United ended up finishing 15th, but Spurs did win the cup. Yeah, I really hope United can get back in Europe and and get in the Intertoto Cup, or whatever it's called nowadays.
That's not fair. That's not fair. Look, they are doing better, and look. He's been stubborn, hasn't he, Amorim? He's been very stubborn about his methods and his way. His way is the only way he's going to do it, and it is. Players are starting to learn to play the way he wants them to play, and they're getting better defensively. They're looking better on the pitch because their chance creation's always been there all season, but now they're starting to turn some of those expected numbers into actual numbers, and they're starting to become fantasy picks again, and I can see some strong wins for them in this next period.
I honestly think the new keeper, all jokes aside, has made a massive difference for them because we've seen, haven't we, time and time again, that a strong keeper in defence gives them so much confidence going forward. And historically, United have gone kind of 1-0 down, and then the game kind of changes in that favour. Whereas at the moment, he's making some really good saves. He's keeping them in the game. They can stay on the front foot, and they can play a different way to if you're chasing a game. And because if you're 1-0 down, 2-0 down, chasing, you play very different. So I think the keeper has made a massive difference, and it just goes to show how bad Onana was. And how bad the keepers have been over the last few seasons. So compliments to Lamens, I want to say. I think he's really helped him turn. He looks like a proper keeper. He looks like it's not very often you see Onana made some really good saves, but they were sprinkled
with some calamities.
Whereas at the moment, Lamens has looked really good. So good stuff. Best captain for game week 10. Interesting one, this, Rich. Obviously with Haaland being at home, obviously the in-form Haaland, although he didn't score last week. Well, he did score, but it was ruled out. But, playing a very, very tough Bournemouth defence this week. But he's predicted 8.1 points still, which is obviously incredibly high. He's very much probably the safe pick. Salah in second place. Mateta, with a really nice fixture. Saka as well. They're probably the second and third favourites there. But what are your thoughts on captaincy this week?
I think it was good for the game, and a few people have said this. I think it was good for the game that Haaland finally blanked last week. It just provides that opportunity for people to think, I might have a swing against it, because he doesn't always score a brace every week, and it's been so consistent. It's still risky to go against it, but you have got a fixture, I think, particularly with Arsenal playing Burnley. If you have Saka, and if you want to try and take it on, I think I'd be looking at Saka or maybe even Gyökeres. If you've still got Gyökeres to take it on, I'm not sure I'd do it, but it gives you an opportunity if you're a long way behind and you think you want to get a big variance. It's a good week to swing against it. I'm not sure that City have just leveled off a bit. I don't think they've obviously having lost to Villa, that was a disappointing result for them. They're not thrashing teams at the moment. So I think Haaland's a safe pick, but if you want to take it on out of that list there, I would go Saka. Or maybe people are starting to talk about captaining Gabriel. He's been so consistent in terms of his returns, but I don't think I'm going to go there. I mean, that can end in disaster, can't it? A quick goal for Burnley and
a quick goal and a booking, and
exactly.
You can't.
It's being talked about. He got a 9-pointer last week when no one else was in the captaincy conversation. So I don't know. I think Saka, if you're going to take it on, and be brave. Haaland, if not. What do you think?
Yeah, agree. Like Mateta as well. But yeah, it's probably in between those two. I just think even though Haaland blanked last week, I think he had 3 shots on target and a goal rule for offside. I don't think we should just look at the 2-pointer and say that there were periods last season where they were dry and he was dry, right? There was just nothing. Almost like kind of Salah has been of the last few weeks. That wasn't the case. 3 shots on target, a goal ruled out for offside. He's still there and incredibly dangerous. And while Bournemouth are a fantastic team, I'm sure they'll put up a really good fight. Obviously, Palace put 3 past Bournemouth just a fortnight ago. So I can see this game being reasonably similar, like a 2-2 or something. I can see Haaland being involved and scoring goals. But I also think Bournemouth will probably score as well.
If you had, we haven't mentioned you last week you got in Krupi Jr. scored a goal for you before you did get him in, didn't you?
I did. I got him in. Yeah.
He's not in the captaincy conversation. But would you, if you owned Krupi this week, would you start him against City?
It probably depends on the rest of your team, because a lot of people would probably have like Mukiele, who's I think at home to Everton. So I probably prefer him as a fourth defender rather than Krupi Jr. But yeah, a fabulous goal, really good. I think it was his only real opportunity of the match. Is the only thing I would add. But what you want for 4.5 million, it was, or 4.6 million, was that it was absolutely perfect. I've contemplated him on Wildcard. We'll talk about my Wildcard team in a bit now when we get to it. He's not in, and there's a good reason why, I think. But I think I'm not sure I'd play him. I'm not sure I'd play him this week if you had a very good fourth defender, perfect.
Interesting. Yeah.
Personally, but yeah. Just a quick look at the market odds for game week 10 from Fantasy Football Hub. The data is from SpreadX. Arsenal far and away the highest for clean sheets, 50% chance of a clean sheet, which is incredibly high. Fulham are actually second with 39% clean sheet. You've then got Man City and Newcastle, both on 35% there. But Arsenal clean sheet looks, you can never say it looks a lock. But it's as good as it's going to get. And in terms of goals scored, top of the tree are also Arsenal. So it's Arsenal-Burnley game, 2.35. So this kind of lends itself. We're talking to Rich about Saka. If Arsenal do get 2 or 3 goals, Saka will probably be involved somewhere along the line. Probably a Saka corner to Gabriel's header, which is the norm nowadays. Man City just behind on 2.29 as well. So, it's kind of predicting a Man City 2-1-ish there, an Arsenal 2 or 3-0 there. And then Liverpool 2.15 with Newcastle then on 1.96. So, yeah, very much Arsenal and City there. But it does think that Arsenal are going to score more goals than City, which, again, is that, it's a Saka thing there, Rich. Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a big. It's a bit more exciting than the previous weeks. Previous weeks have been a bit flat, around 1.5 goals per team across many of the fixtures. This one's got a bit more, a few more supremacy type fixtures in it. I think we're giving a lot of respect to Bournemouth. That's why the City number's not higher. Liverpool playing Villa. Not sure on that one. Villa have won. It's the immovable force beats the irresistible object. I mean, Liverpool won their first 5 and subsequently lost their next 4. Villa couldn't win for their first 5, or couldn't get a win or even score a goal, and then they've won their last 4. So something's got to give in that game. It's still heavily weighted towards Liverpool, but they're at home. But the form would suggest that Villa have got a chance in that game. So, some interesting games. Tottenham-Chelsea's a tough one to call, our 2 teams. How do you think that one will go?
Well, it suggests they're kind of anywhere between like a 1-1 and a 2-1. After last night, I know Spurs played a weakened team. If Spurs were away, I'd fancy them a little bit more. I don't know. I think based on current form that
Tottenham.
I don't want to. No, I think maybe Chelsea or a draw. Yeah, it's just Spurs. I don't know. He keeps messing around with players like Alderweireld and all that. Like he's got, and Matthias Tell, and it's just like, you look at the lineups he's been putting out recently, and I just
don't know. Not confident.
I don't know if he's big. If he's trying to be sort of over tactical. He's obviously famed, incredible analytical manager, and playing specific players in specific teams, but. Playing people like Alderweireld and Tell when you've got Richarlison and other players on the bench, I just don't really get it. Just play your best 11.
It's normally a bit of a spicy fixture, isn't it? So probably 2-2 and several yellow cards, I should imagine.
Lots of reds for Chelsea.
Yeah, probably. Well, yeah, who's going to be sent off this week? Well, yeah, I mean that I was Delap Delap getting sent off last night presumably misses the Premier League game as a suspension, right? So that means João Pedro has to play, doesn't it? Really, I can't believe that. You got to still keep playing João Pedro. So, yeah, what a shame. What a shame he got sent off. Yeah, crazy, wasn't it?
Rich, we've now got your team on screen ahead of game week 10. You've got a team rating overall still of 97%. This is pre-World. Oh, your team makes me sick. This is pre-World. And you've got a gaming rate of 93%, 0.9 million in the bank. Yeah, what apart from one glaring player in that starting 11, your team is superb. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, I mean the Hub AI has actually suggested I play Dubravka ahead of Sanchez, and it's close, I have to say, but mainly Dubravka's in there because he's forecast to get a lot more save points than Sanchez, perhaps. But yeah, I'll make a decision over the goalkeepers, but I don't really fancy playing Dubravka against Arsenal. It has to be said. I've got Gabriel at the back, obviously Munoz, who's locked. Little bit of a issue over Van der Ven over Anderson, but obviously Anderson, we need some team news. If Anderson is likely to come back, I think I'll play Anderson ahead of Van der Ven. Risk another benching for him. I mean, what would you do with Van der Ven now? Would you keep him, or would you? I mean, he's obviously going to be getting transferred in by loads of people because he scored a brace, but I was going to sell him. He was going to be my make weight for Timber or an Arsenal defender. But now, what do you do? What do you do with a guy who's just scored 23 points?
I just think you got to look objectively, mate. He's like, he's not going to. I say this now. I'll have egg on my face, right? But he's not going to be doing that this week or probably any other week for the rest of his career. I just think you got to look at it objectively. I would start Anderson anyway because he's not going to be like a sub on. I think no. I think the big question, Rich, is this week whether you fancy a Stev or Van der Ven as
It definitely won't be a Stev, although he probably will get DEFCONs against Arsenal, I expect. But yeah, it's either Anderson or Van der Ven. Let's wait for the presser. In midfield, I've got Fernandes, Sarr, Enzo and Semenyo, all really solid picks. I had no problem playing Semenyo away at City at all. I want something from Enzo, having just bought him in last week, and I may sell Fernandes to Saka, but because Arsenal are spreading the points around so much, I think I'm more likely to go for an Arsenal defender rather than sell Bruno and mess around with that till the wild card. It is a bit of a dilemma because I've got Mateta in already. I've got Haaland in, and I really want to sell João Pedro. I haven't done it yet, but I really want. I'm just so sick of him. I think everybody is. He's still over 50% owned despite the fire sale. So that's come down from about 65.
Home to Wolves in game week 11, mine. But
so what? We were home to Sunderland last week, and he never even had a shot. So
yeah, but that's Sunderland. This is Wolves, mate.
Yeah,
Wolves.
I know, mate. But he might not even play if Delap is available. He might even drop João Pedro and play, one of the lads who started last night. So yeah, João Pedro's got to go. Really, it's whether or not I put him down to Thiago or whether I put him down to Krupi Jr., who was the guy I should have bought in last week. And whether Krupi is still, I've missed the boat on it or not. If ever Nielsen's coming back on this form, though, can you drop Krupi? I mean, he's doing the business, isn't he? So I still like Krupi, although this is not the week to necessarily play him. He'll give me a lot of money and allow me to get a couple of Arsenal guys in over the next couple of weeks before I potentially wildcard. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I think there's no AI predictions for my team, is there, in terms of transfers? It was actually predicting that I roll, saying I should roll.
Yeah.
But I have 2 free transfers, so I can do something here. And I do think I'm exposed over the next 2 games to not having 2 Arsenal defenders. Almost pretty much you'll have 2, won't you? And the majority of the people who have wildcarded already have got 2. And I think I'll probably bring in Timber, and it'll either be for Anderson if he's still injured or Van der Ven, as you say, because I've missed his points and I can't be too sentimental. So that's what I'm looking at. João Pedro down to either Thiago or Krupi, and then the defender up to Timber.
I think you've got to, mate. I think that is beautiful. Just firstly, a question. There's a player in your team who has scored. There's not a forward that scored 5 goals in 13 games this season. Do you know who that is in your team? 5 goals in 13 games.
Is it Ryan?
It is Mickey Van der Ven.
Mickey Van der Ven
this season.
Yeah.
5 in 30.
5, yeah,
crazy.
he's scored a couple in Europe as well, hasn't he? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's the top. I think he's the third top scoring defender now in the game. And yeah, so it does make you think twice about selling him. If he gets another, goal line header.
I think you've got to, mate. I think you've got to do it personally. I think those moves make absolute sense, especially because you've got your wild card in your pocket still. You could get to game week 12, and you've got Krupi. Bournemouth's fixtures from game week 12 are absolutely fantastic. So yeah. Do you know what makes me sick?
What?
Do you know what makes me ill? When we go to the next slide.
Yeah.
When we go to the next slide,
it's my team
basically
again,
almost showing the same team.
You've used your
wild carded.
Mate,
this is my actual current team, which is absolute filth.
No red anywhere.
I'm not no reds. That was going on last week. So let's quickly skip over that. So my current wildcard team, which has a 99% team rating, and actually from next week it's got 100% team rating, a 98% game week rating as well. A few decisions. It was whether to go for a good premium third defender or not, whether I want to go for Saka or not, and what to do with the third choice striker. They were the three sort of decision points. I've kind of got 11, like 10 or 11 players almost locked in. The keepers I'm not absolutely happy with. It's more of a budget thing than anything. I'm obviously definitely going for Dubravka. I've gone for Petrovic at the moment based on the Javier recommendations, but I can't afford to get to Roes, and he is maybe one I'm interested in at 4.7. But at the moment I can't get to him, but I'm sure I can squeeze a 0.1 or something out somewhere. I'm sure I can have a look. But Gabriel, Timber, Mukiele, Munoz, and Rodon. Do you think Rodon is the best fifth mid, or is there a better one?
When we were texting, I said, arguably you could wildcard and have 3 4.0 level defenders. You could have Mukiele, maybe an Estev, or maybe an Alderete. You could have a Rodon. You could have a Goodmanson. You could basically pick 3 from different teams, and rotate them according to fixture alongside 2 Arsenal defenders. The problem is you want Munoz. I'm not going to try and talk you out of having Munoz. So because you got those 3 that are locking it down. If you have Senesi in here, if you were to have Senesi in this team,
he's the one.
Yeah, then you still got in the back of your mind, you're still thinking I should have Senesi. But when are you going to play him over the next few weeks? You're not, because you're going to play.
It's game week 12. Yeah. So I think so. At the moment, very roughly, I think I'm doing Timber to Senesi in game week 12. Arsenal's fixtures toughen up. Obviously they're still fantastic for clean sheets. But I think that Gabriel will be fine. But Senesi's fixtures, Bournemouth fixtures from game week 12. I know I've mentioned them a few times. If I can just get them quickly, they're home to West. Well, these are the 3: home to West Ham in game week 12, away to Sunderland in 13, home to Everton in 14. That's what I can just see in my my current view. But it goes on and on. Bournemouth fixtures here, which is part of the reason why I'm keeping Semenyo, is because I know he'll be a transfer in 100% guaranteed in game week 12.
And you got him at 7 mil as well, didn't you?
And I got him at 7 million in game week 2. So yeah, so that's my sort of loose-ish. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to the actual Tino. Thinking around that is I don't want to miss out on Timber for the next 2. As you rightly say, and Timber almost had an assist last night for Saka's goal. He set up. I can't think who had the shot, but he marauded through the defense, put a through ball through for someone whose shot was saved. Saka followed up and scored. It was nearly a Timber assist. He's there, mate. I suppose the other thing to do is to potentially go without Saka and go for Califury. That is another option, which I'm not massively against. Especially, I'm not going to captain Saka, and I'm not against that.
What about
go on?
Save him 1.1 million. Go Saka to Bruno and a double up on United, and then go Raya in goal, or a third Arsenal defender.
I'm not keen on Raya, as I say, because I think 5.7 million for a player who's capped at 6, which I think he is, I don't think is worth it, especially when I can probably get 3 points off Dubravka for 4 million every week because of the saves and stuff. So I don't fancy Raya. For me, it would either be Califury or Saka, I think, is my final one. Obviously, the kind of elephant in the room is I have got Mark Gui on my bench tucked away, who probably won't move for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks at 4.2. But I don't mind that. On the season in 2017, I can't think of the striker's name. There was a striker. There was a Brighton striker. If anyone can remember this in the chat, it would be absolutely brilliant. But he was something like, he went down to 4.3, 4.2 million. And that was the season I had my fantastic season, finished 700th overall. I was up to like 80th at one point. And it was because I played this third striker. He just let me put all my money on the pitch. And I'm kind of trying to think like that, is just think of him as a completely dead spot at 4.2. That's as cheap as it's going to get. And just load up. And especially since we are seeing clean sheets, we're seeing DEFCONs, we're seeing goals from corners, we're seeing all this stuff. Defense is back, and that's without the flying win back stuff as well. The Munoz who's getting goals and assists. So it wasn't Connolly. No, FPL Freddy says Connolly. I don't think it was Connolly. I can't think of his name.
Recent. That's a bit further back.
But it was 2017. It was eight years ago now. But it'd be interesting to see if anyone can get it. It might have been Brighton. It might have been Wigan. It was definitely a blue and white stripy top. That's the quiz question anyway for the night. In midfield, Saka and Buemo, Sarr, Semenyo, and Enzo. Was kind of tossing up between Enzo and Ndiaye. I do like Ndiaye. I suppose I just came back to the fact that I think that Chelsea will just score more goals than Everton. As much as I do think Ndiaye is a fantastic player, and he really is. He played how Everton lost 3-0 at home to Spurs last week. It was absolutely beyond me. And Ndiaye was absolutely superb. And then Haaland and Mateta up front. So pretty.
Yeah. There's
pretty
a lot of value in
those strong.
In those 6.5s, there's a lot of value, but I think you've got the two right ones for the next few games, Enzo and Sarr. Enzo's probably still on the pens, and I think he'll come good for some returns. And you've kept Semenyo. I think it's harder for you to sell Semenyo because you've got him at such a cheap price, and I think he'll carry on rising as he goes through the season. I really like that team. I think it's balanced. It allows you to change the formations around, unless all of a sudden the strikers start banging and there's loads of strikers come Christmas that we want to go to three at the front. It's kind of helped me with my decision to just drop João Pedro down to a dead spot or a 4.5-ish player, because just what you can do with that 3 million is huge.
There's so much value elsewhere on the pitch. There's players scoring mega points every week, and none of them are coming from outside of Haaland and Mateta up front anyway, right? Maybe Gyökeres potentially has the potential. There's a lot of guesses. Well, a lot of guesses coming in about this player, Zaki, Glenn Murray, Sam Baldock. It was none of them. Do you know what? I can't remember his name, but I actually wrote a review that season of how I had such a good season. I put him as my player of the season, not because he scored any points, but because by putting him in place, it enabled me to get another 14 fantastic players out also. It was that season
when he never got any minutes. Was he always red
I think
flag?
so. Yeah, I think so. But I remember there were players like I think it was Otamendi that season that his breakout.
Was it something like Zarate or something like that? Was it?
No, it wasn't.
Some really never really featured, but he was always red flagged. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I have to have a look.
I'll have to have a
tough
look.
One, that one, mate.
It is. It was when Otamendi had that season where he was scoring headers off corners, and Phil Jones, I think for United, was getting like 3 bonus points just every game, even for turning up, sort of thing. But it was that getting that spot. It basically won me in terms of, and it's another decision that's gone from your team as well.
Yeah, you just are slightly more with a dead spot. You're slightly more susceptible to to injuries and flags through international breaks and through fixture congestion. So I wouldn't advise playing with a dead spot through the Christmas period, for instance. But we're ages away from that, and you'll have a 5.5 option that you can upgrade to then. And
I'm not sure though, mate, because I do think that balancing a third striker who's going to not be a good, like it's going to be someone like Isidore, right, or Calvert-Lewin, right, holding him and keeping $1 million outside of my team over that period, or getting a 1 or 2 pointer off some not not very good player. I think I'm going to go with it. I think.
All right, mate. No, I think it's good. I think it's the formation's good, and there's not a lot wrong with it. What does the chat think of it? Does the chat like Fergie's wildcard?
Yeah, had a bit of good feedback. Peter doesn't like Enzo, but he says otherwise liking that team. That is fair. And Bryn Super Blue says great team, Fergie. Sorrow says Gabriel, Timmer, and California, the only three you need every week. This is it. So yeah, that's the thing is I've always got this devil on my shoulder. You know, the devil saying that this team looks very, very template. And it does. In terms of a wild card team, it would be. It's not, you know, it's not template because people are still kind of making their way to it as you are now, as the early wildcarders are as well. But I've got this devil on my shoulder saying I could just be that slight different and go for Califiore, which would free up 4 million that I could do things elsewhere in the team. So I just need to. I'll obviously finalize it in the next 24 hours, but at the moment, I really like this. I'm actually getting some positive comments. I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
Normally,
people
I'm getting a load of stick, but
ripping the piss out of you, and they're not. Yeah. I think you've nailed it, mate. I think it's fine. I mean, look at the team rating as well. Look at the team rating for this week and next week. 100%,
and that's it. 100% next week. Interesting as well. And this could actually sway it for me, mate, and could sway you this week. Well, no, because you've got your wild card. FPL Mackham says. That Mark Gui will go back to Sunderland in January and will likely get starts as well. So, he could end up being actually a decent pick after the festive period. We will see. A good point by FPL Freddie as well. He said, I like the Saka pick. Easy to get back to Palmer if he is back at some point. And that is the thing of having that expensive price.
I mean, maybe after
the
next international break, you can easily swing to Palmer, yeah.
Or I go to Gakpo because I think I'm going to want a Liverpool midfielder at some point. I can't get to Salah, obviously, but Saka, massive downgrade to Gakpo if that's what you call it. Saka has been quite injury prone last season or two as well, so I can get to anyone there, can't I? So there's lots of options. So I think I'm fairly sorting it. But anyway, enough talk about my team. But that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much. To everyone who's joined in the chat, those who are going to watch it back and those on the podcast version, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. Rich, thank you so much, as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on X.
And thank you to Scott, who I forget to thank every week. He is in my little script, but for some reason I kind of trip over it. But thank you, Scott, for pulling all the strings behind the scenes as usual, putting in all the polls and and running a seamless tech. Also, if you do play Dream Team, follow Dream Team Professor and Dream Team Tonic, where Scott is the host and does a fabulous job there. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with all the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watch, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast, drop us 5 stars, and leave a comment. We would really, really appreciate it. We will be back next week looking ahead to game week 11, and we'll have the spaffometer dusted off ahead of my wild card. It'll be interesting. In the meantime, have a fantastic game week 10, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.